to Ukraine. You're being invaded today. It is Thursday, February the 24th. You're being invaded today. I hate to tell you this, but at least for a month or so, according to the President of the United States, Joe Biden, you're on your own for a month or so, according to good old Joe, who's imposed some sanctions, called them profound sanctions, most severe sanctions, and then 1 second later said, ask me in a month or so if they worked. As for Joe Biden, figure this out. Call Donald Trump. Be man. Call him up. He staved this off for 4.5 years. Putin wouldn't dare cross him. Have some humility and call him up. Ask for some advice. You have, I don't think it's an overstatement, potentially millions of lives at stake. Call up your predecessor and ask him how he did it. You'd show some real humility. I mean, you won't do it. Your people probably won't let you. But you're stuck between a rock and a hard place now. And you seem to pretty much be well aware that you don't know what to do. You don't know what Putin will do next. You don't know how China might be involved. You don't know how to engage China to either help you defeat Putin or at least help to contain Putin from their end. You don't seem to have any idea how any of that works. I don't want to play armchair, foreign policy expert. So you go to people who have done it before well. Call up President Trump. Call up Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State. But call Trump up. How did you do it? He's going to give you good advice for the defense of the country and for the defense of Ukraine and for the stabilization of the region. And then execute what he tells you to do. That's how you get out of this. Call Trump. That's how you get out of this. That's how you come out of this looking well. That's how you make America look well and further the American interests and succeed and help your military succeed in whatever endeavor you put them up to. If Joe Biden came to the United States Congress and asked for authorization to defend you, in other words, go to war with Russia, I think that Congress would say yes, because a lot of those guys wouldn't mind saying yes to a war right now. But you never know, because his approval ratings are so in the toilet in the United States. He may not be able to justify it, and he may not be able to make his case. You're just definitely on your own. I would not expect Joe Biden to have any answers for you, or even remember the ones that he gave you. He opened up a press conference today by saying that he was right, that he has been predicting a Russian invasion for months. He's let anyone who will listen to him know that he thinks Russia will invade, and he's now today letting everyone know how right he was. Not a month ago, there was a NATO summit in which Biden was a chief participant. And while questions of Russia and Ukraine relations were brought up in the press, all of NATO spent an entire summit either discussing your situation in Ukraine and failing to come up with a plan, or discussing it and the only thing that they could come up with was, we'll just slowly unleash some sanctions, profound ones, which we won't know their impact a month or so later. Or they didn't discuss your situation at all.
The negotiations were short.
That's basically the only conclusions that I can come to. Remember, not a month ago, there was a NATO summit. And I know Ukraine's been trying to get into NATO. And NATO's been stiff-arming you. And I know there's disagreement among NATO countries whether or not they want to include Ukraine. But whether Ukraine is a part of NATO or not, many of the NATO countries are on the short list of Ukrainian allies. So they're all in the room. Call it NATO, call it whatever you like. And a number one topic was supposedly the defense of Ukraine from an attack from Russia that Biden oddly is claiming that he's predicted for months and months. And yet a summit did not produce any sort of semblance of a plan. They appear totally flat-footed, the United States government. I don't know what Biden will do going forward. Nobody does. He seems supremely confident in his foreign policy prowess. Remember, this was the guy who advised President Obama not to go after bin Laden when presented with the opportunity. Every instinct on foreign policy has been wrong thus far. I don't have any real reason to think that he'll get Ukraine right. None. I knew this about Trump, though. I knew Trump would defend you with everything that he had. It would only be a matter of degrees. I knew that much. And yeah, he'd like to present himself as a little bit of a loose cannon. And sometimes you got to play that card in foreign policy. Keep your enemies off balance a little bit. Make them question your stability. Make them question what you might do to them. Putin doesn't appear to care one iota what the United States military or United States foreign policy will do to him. Not a one. Not one iota. Now you got President Xi in China basically sending warplanes over Taiwan. Taiwan's about to go through the same thing if this unfolds. Similarly, is going to go through the same thing as Ukraine. Why? Because Biden's at the lunch.
Let me finish my lunch.
Sometimes democracy does that. If you want to believe in the results of the elections, let's just presuppose that they were correct. Sometimes the American public elects bad leaders. That's just that's just what can happen. And we got one now. And our enemies know it. By the way, feels like a good time to remind everyone that the 45th president of the United States is banned from Twitter. Meanwhile, Putin has his own account with 1.7 million followers and can tweet away. So here's Biden today.
Specifically, with the sanctions we've imposed exceed SWIFT. The sanctions we imposed exceed anything that's ever been done. The sanctions we imposed have generated 2/3 of the world joining us. They are profound sanctions. Let's have a conversation in another month or so to see if they're working.
You gotta listen to him. He's ticked that anyone seems to doubt him.
we've imposed exceed SWIFT.
I don't know what exceed SWIFT is. What is exceed? That's sounds like such an old man term. I can't listen to him. This was Biden at the NATO summit back on January the 14th. Remember, just a month ago, all of Ukrainians' so-called friends, I think this was where? Brussels, got together to discuss what might happen if Putin invaded. Either they came up with a plan and forgot it there, left it in the hotel room, or the sanctions was the plan, or they just didn't come up with one at all. He's asked if he still thinks Vladimir Putin is a killer.
He has made clear that the answer is
that's
I
not dead
he's
air,
in the
folks.
past
Let's just
essentially acknowledge that he was. There are certain things that he would do or did do. But look,
bummer is an understatement. Obviously, there's going to be a tremendous loss of life. There already has been. The footage is going to be unreal. Somebody made a point, like, this is kind of like the first, like, European theater of war where everyone's got a cell phone, even the poor. So this is going to get wild in terms of the footage that you see on your feeds. There was a video earlier today about a jet flying over an apartment building and launching a missile into the side of the apartment building, and this baby girl just starts crying. It scares the devil out of her. So it's the images are going to be heart-wrenching. Now, I kind of have I could sit here and just bash Biden all day long, I suppose, and I'm sure other programs will do that. My kind of philosophy on bad American presidents that order troops into war, as soon as that order goes out and American blood is put into the front lines, my attitude is you try to support that decision as best as you can, or not say anything at all. So that's what we're going to do here, because I have a ton of respect for people who put their lives on the line. I got a ton of respect for people who put their lives on the line in a volunteer service like the United States military, who are taking orders in a command structure where our system is dictated that they take orders from the person that we elect. So they volunteered to do it, to defend the American people, to defend the Stars and Stripes. That means they're at the whims of what might be some incorrect calls. But it's their lives that they're on the line, and they have a mission to accomplish. So when they're put on the front lines and when they're put in harm's way, we're going to support them. Until then, to the people of Ukraine, like I said at the top, if you get American aid or international aid led by America, consider it just extra sugar on your cereal. Don't expect it. Do what you can to protect yourself, protect your loved ones, protect your property, and get yourself out of harm's way. As for Joe Biden, call up Donald Trump. Hell, invite him to the White House. Would it kill you to break bread with your predecessor? Is your ego so big that you can't, you won't allow yourself to do that? You know, all these other presidents have broken bread with their predecessors, including Trump. Would it kill you to do that, particularly on this issue? And for all your criticisms about Trump and what he could or did and didn't do vis-a-vis domestic policy, he sure had a handle on foreign policy, and he sure as hell had a handle on this one, seeing as Putin never made a move in 4 years. And that's what you want, right? You want deterrence. You don't want Putin making moves. So call him up. Ask him if it's too late to do what he did. And if it's not, execute what Trump tells you to do. Over and out.